What if some of hip hop's toughest OG legends weren't hiding crimes, but hiding themselves? For decades, the golden era demanded one thing above all: a hard, straight, untouchable image. And when that becomes the rule, silence becomes the price of survival. In this episode of Secrets of Black Star, we're not here to spread gossip or chase shock value. We're here to examine how a culture built on toughness punished queerness, forced artists into secrecy, and turned rumors into weapons. Were these whispers clues, distortions, or simply survival stories misread through time? And what does it say about a genre that once celebrated authenticity while demanding silence from anyone who didn't fit its mold? We want to hear your take. Are these rumors revealing truth or revealing our own biases? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you want more fearless breakdowns like this, hit like and subscribe.
Diddy, when myth, power, and rumor collide. No veteran figure in hip-hop has had his private world crash into his public myth as violently as Sean Diddy Combs. His story isn't the loudest, it's the most explosive. In 2025, a federal jury cleared him of the major trafficking and racketeering charges that dominated headlines, but convicted him on 2 counts of transporting individuals across state lines for prostitution. He was sentenced to a little over 4 years, a moment that shifted his legacy from empire-building mogul to cautionary tale. But the testimony is what reignited decades of whispers. Allegations of drug-fueled freak-off events, hired male escorts, an environment shaped by power, fear, and humiliation. These accounts pushed old rumors into new territory, yet still didn't prove what many rushed to assume. Participation in orchestrated encounters does not define a person's sexuality, and no court established any such truth. Diddy's case exposes something larger: a culture that weaponizes sexuality, confuses rumor with identity, and often debates labels instead of confronting power and accountability.
Dr. Dre, the rumor that outlived the feud. Dr. Dre stands as one of hip-hop's foundational architects, a producer whose fingerprints shaped NWA, West Coast dominance, and the launch of countless legends. Yet for nearly 3 decades, he's also carried one of the culture's most persistent, unproven rumors: that he's secretly gay. To understand why it's stuck, you have to go back to the climate of the mid-90s, when masculinity in rap was policed like a battlefield rule. After Dre left Death Row, Suge Knight weaponized that climate, repeatedly claiming Dre had relationships with men. These statements came with no evidence and were widely seen as revenge tactics, not revelations. Another layer came from claims involving singer Michelet, claims she has repeatedly denied. What remains is hearsay recycled through feuds, blogs, and nostalgia. Dre himself has never labeled his sexuality, and his public life reflects relationships with women and a large family, none of which conclusively prove orientation. So, why does the speculation survive? Because Dre is too important to fade, and hip-hop once treated queerness as a career killer. His story shows how a rumor becomes mythology when a culture fears what it cannot name.
Eric Sermon, when a rumor becomes a weapon. Eric Sermon, the Green-Eyed Bandit, and half the legendary duo EPMD helped define the sound of late 80s and early 90s East Coast hip-hop. But the rumor that he was secretly gay didn't come from his music, his behavior, or any documented evidence. It came from a microphone. A Wendy Williams broadcast in the late 90s when radio shock culture treated personal insinuation as entertainment. Her claim was never backed by proof, yet it spread instantly through mixtapes, club talk, and early blogs hungry for drama. Sermon has repeatedly denied the rumor, calling it baseless and tied to a personal fallout with Williams. Importantly, no credible source has ever surfaced to contradict him. The entire narrative rests on circular gossip, people citing people who were citing radio chatter. What makes Sermon's story meaningful isn't the rumor, it's the climate that allowed it to thrive. In his era, masculinity was so rigid that a single suggestion could sabotage reputation. His case reveals how hip-hop once punished anything that even hinted at vulnerability, turning rumor into a weapon and artists into targets of identity policing.
Busta Rhymes, one of hip-hop's most electrifying performers, has faced years of sexuality speculation despite no verified evidence supporting it. The renewed wave of rumors in 2024-2025 didn't emerge from his private relationships, but from legal drama, an assault allegation involving a male assistant followed by a civil suit. Social media twisted this into a narrative of hidden identity, though the case centered on workplace conflict, not romance. Fuel poured onto the fire when a celebrity bodyguard loudly claimed Busta was gay, claims never supported by reporting, documentation, or witnesses. Old club stories resurfaced, none of them verified. Busta himself has dismissed rumor culture broadly without addressing labels he never claimed. The deeper truth is cultural, not personal. Busta came up in an era where calling a rapper gay was a standard insult, a way to undermine credibility. He once bristled at discussions of homophobia, later evolving toward more acceptance. His story isn't about being exposed. It's about how quickly the internet can turn unproven comments into identity headlines. Until evidence exists or he chooses to speak, rumor remains rumor, and legacy remains the work.
Birdman, born Brian Baby Williams, is a true Southern OG, co-founder of Cash Money Records and the architect behind the rise of Juvenile, the Hot Boys, and Bakbidla Lil Wayne. Yet his legacy is forever entangled with one of hip-hop's most enduring rumor storms, the televised kisses he shared with Wayne in the early 2000s. In a hyper-masculine era, that single gesture detonated into a national debate. Outsiders framed it as romance, tabloids framed it as scandal, haters reframed it as grooming. But none of those interpretations were grounded in verifiable fact. Birdman's explanation has remained consistent for over 2 decades. Wayne was his son, and the kisses were a cultural, paternal expression of love and loyalty in an environment shaped by loss and violence. People within the Cash Money circle have supported that view, emphasizing that the gesture was familial, not sexual. Still, the rumor refuses to die, not because of evidence, but because old hip-hop rules trained audiences to fear any intimacy between men. Birdman's story isn't proof of a hidden identity, it's proof of how quickly affection can be weaponized in a genre once terrified of softness.
Tupac Shakur, when sensitivity became a target. Tupac Shakur remains one of hip-hop's most mythologized figures, a poet, revolutionary, and warrior whose emotional range broke every mold his era tried to impose. That same emotional depth, however, fed decades of false speculation about his sexuality. The roots trace back to his Baltimore School for the Arts years, where he studied acting, ballet, jazz, and poetry. Later, a teenage interview clip resurfaced online, with some misreading his tenderness and expressive gestures as evidence of queerness. But this interpretation reveals more about cultural bias than about Pac himself. There is no credible documentation that Tupac identified as gay or had same-sex relationships. His public romantic history, along with Jada Pinkett Smith's own accounts, confirms that he experienced deep heterosexual attachments. Yet because Pac showed vulnerability in a time when hip-hop equated softness with weakness, rumor became a tool to shrink him. Tupac violated the old rule that a rapper must be one thing: hard. His existence was multicolored: sensitive, political, explosive, loving. The rumor doesn't expose Pac, it exposes how a homophobic culture struggled to understand a man who dared to feel.
Lil Wayne, a symbol misread by a generation. Lil Wayne's rise from an 11-year-old Cash Money prodigy to a global rap icon is one of hip-hop's great transformation stories. But like Birdman, he has been shadowed for years by rumors tied to the infamous father-son kisses captured on BET's Rap City, 106 and Park, and in early 2000s photos. In the hyper-masculine landscape of the time, those images were interpreted as romantic or taboo, sparking a narrative Wayne never claimed. Wayne faced the rumors directly in music, most famously on his We Taken Over remix with the line, "I kissed my daddy." The statement reframed the act as loyalty, survival, and gratitude toward the man who fed and raised him in the studio. It didn't confirm a hidden sexuality, it explained a cultural bond outsiders misread. Despite years of speculation, no verified evidence links Wayne to same-sex relationships. The rumor endures because it taps into hip-hop's historical discomfort with male affection. Wayne's story reveals how a single gesture, viewed through a homophobic lens, becomes a permanent question mark, even when the facts say otherwise.
Ludicrous, when a viral accusation becomes evidence. Ludacris has always carried the image of a polished, confident, family-centered star. A rapper who crossed into Hollywood without losing his Southern charisma. That's why the rumors sparked in early 2024 felt so jarring. They didn't come from journalism, leaked documents, or insider reporting. They came from a single explosive interview, Cat Williams' viral appearance on Club Shay Shay. Williams accused Ludacris of joining a secret Illuminati-style pact, insinuating bisexuality as part of the alleged deal. Days later, he doubled down with a freestyle calling Luda bi-curious and claiming a relationship with Quincy Jones. None of these allegations were backed by evidence. Ludacris responded with sharp wordplay over Devil in a New Dress, dismissing the conspiracy narrative rather than engaging in gossip. He defended his career, his opportunities, and his wife, but never validated the rumor by debating his orientation. The real story is not about Ludacris being exposed, it's about how quickly online culture rewards unproven claims. His situation shows how hip-hop's old tactic, using queerness as an insult, still thrives in a digital age where rumors go viral faster than truth.
Exhibit, a story about a party, not a confession. Exhibit, a West Coast heavyweight and the gravel-voiced host of Pimp My Ride, isn't a rapper typically tied to sexuality rumors. But one story he told in 2009 became internet fuel a decade later. On Jamie Foxx's Foxhole Radio, Exhibit described attending a New Year's Eve celebration hosted by Diddy, then following the group to an after-hours club. Inside, he unexpectedly saw men kissing, a nude male dancer, and a vibe he didn't expect. Feeling uncomfortable, he left. That was the entire story. Exhibit never claimed he participated in anything, never implied queerness about himself, and never framed the scene as scandalous. He later clarified he wasn't trying to attack anyone's sexuality, just describing a surprising moment. But online culture loves distortion. The clip resurfaced around Diddy's legal troubles and was twisted into proof of secret lifestyles. In reality, it proves only how fast a simple anecdote becomes a rumor when hip-hop's old homophobia collides with modern internet sensationalism. Proximity is not identity, and Exhibit's legacy remains rooted in music, not myth.
So in the end, what are we really judging here? The identities of these OG rappers or a culture that spent decades fearing identity itself? When you strip away the noise, the lawsuits, the gossip, and the recycled rumors, one truth becomes clear. Most of these stories say more about us than about them. Rumors are projections. They reveal a culture that once weaponized sexuality to police masculinity, punish vulnerability, and control narratives long before social media existed. If hip-hop is going to grow, it has to stop turning queerness into an accusation and start holding its legends to the same standard as everyone else. Facts over speculation, accountability over sensationalism. Maybe the real secret isn't who these men are, but why we're still obsessed with policing their private lives at all. So now it's your turn.
What do you think this conversation really reveals? Drop your thoughts below and don't forget to like and subscribe for more fearless breakdowns.